Right, in this video, I will break down how to qualify prospects in DMs and how to book qualified meetings. If you've seen my other video on how to actually sell in the DMs, this video will be very similar. It's just a different conversation, but the underlying DM strategy is identical. So feel free to skip the intro if you've seen the other video already. And if not, just stick around because I will explain a few really important concepts. So what you will learn in this video is first of all the number one DM framework to book qualified meetings, and you can modify it a little bit. You will have to check the other video to actually sell in the DMs without needing a sales call. I will also show you how to make conversations feel and flow naturally, really, really important. I will show you a few key elements to pay attention to, and I will show you what I pay attention to in a conversation. I'll show you tips on building authority, and I will show you DM best practices. This video is based on a cold outreach conversation that I have, and that is something that a lot of people really struggle with. So pay close attention to the nuances. I won't be talking through everything in detail because I made the previous video really detailed. So I will just briefly go over the strategy and alpha and stuff, and then dive into the convo. So what you want to have, of course, is you want to have a way of structuredly leading a conversation. You don't just want to go in to every conversation and follow your gut, right? That is not really gonna get you anything or anywhere meaningfully consistently. So what you want to have is a really simple strategy. And what I use is this, what's here in front of us. So we always start with opening the conversation. We transition to business. We get clear on the current situation first, then the goal. Optionally, we check if there's urgency. We find the frustration, the pain, the challenge. Pain sells, I always say. And then we suggest a call. Three most important steps are figuring out where they are, where they want to get to, and understand the frustration. So, what's preventing them from doing that? That is the gap. The bigger the gap, that's why I have this guy. I don't want you to ever forget it. The bigger the gap, the bigger the payout. Apart from that, I coined this term AVA, right? Acknowledge, value, ask. So anytime your prospect says something, acknowledge it. And it doesn't mean that you have to acknowledge every single thing that they said, but in every message, there is something that you will acknowledge. You also add value by sharing a tip, a resource, a story, or maybe empathizing with them. And then you always end with asking a question because the person that's asking the questions is leading the conversations. You want to be in the driver's seat of the convo. So in the previous breakdown where I actually sold something in the DMs, I go really in depth into the conversation and into AVA and show you exactly like this is how AVA is used. Do you see it? Can you spot it? I won't be doing that in this video for the sake of time. So yeah, this conversation it's not that old. I use one of my standard openers. I mean, if you're going through the program, you understand how this opener is created. Um, so I spot something of interest, right? So he lived in India and then he moved to San Francisco. So I thought that that was interesting enough to point out. And then he is both a coach and a consultant. At least that is how he positions himself. So that is why I ask, do you focus more on your coaching or consultancy branch, right? Because he offers both. So it took a day, and I got a response. I got a pretty good response, and I think it's good because it's so elaborative, right? It's not just yeah, I'm just doing coaching or just consulting. He put a lot of effort into answering my question, and that is always a great sign. So hey, it's been a transformative journey. World has changed. Let me make it a little bit darker so it's easier to read. I'm leaning towards coaching because it feels closer to my heart. So that's a really important piece of information that he shared with me here. It allows me to make a real impact in people's lives, unlike consulting, which focuses on financial outcomes. So what this already tells me is this is like a people's person, right? Someone that likes to work with people that have a positive impact on their life or their business or their work or whatever. That is what really drives him. Sure, he wants to make money, but he's not necessarily driven by helping his clients make more money. And then he answered the part about, here I talked a little bit about the tram ride in Hyde Street that I really like to take some time. And he's like, that's pretty cool. He also ends with a question. Out of curiosity, what made you visit my profile? So important that I answer that question because you don't want to ignore your prospect. But I don't have to forget to always end with a question because I want to be in the driver's seat. And so sometimes this happens in conversations, right, where people ask you questions as well. The thing to do is answer really concisely and then move on with your agenda because you don't want to get in line with their agenda. So I'm 100% with you on the coaching. So again, that's AVA, that's the acknowledgement. We'll just briefly go over this, by the way. So I end with seems like you've got quite a good rhythm going with your content. How often do you post? If you go through the video on the three C's conversational framework that I teach, you will start to understand what's happening here. So in the connect phase, right, where we are still in the first C of the three C's, the goal is to get to the assist. So we have the opener and then we have the assist, which will make it really natural to transition to talking about business or about how things are going in their business. And so instead of right away saying, hey, I see you're posting content, are you looking to build a brand for yourself or like a personal brand for yourself or looking to generate leads, I have a softer start to that conversation. And the way I do it is with the assist. And so I ask something that is a little bit more indirect, which will make it really easy to later ask, how's that going? Do you sign a lot of clients from your content? Stuff like that. Cool. So it's a little bit more indirect. Also, he asked me, hey, out of curiosity, what made you visit my profile like in the first place? And so I'm honest. I think it's always good to be honest and upfront. You should never start a conversation or have a conversation with the intention to sell. Sure, that is what you want to do, but you first need to qualify the person. So there's no reason for me to say, hey, yeah, I want to sell you my coaching program because I don't even know if I can help this person, let alone sell him something. So to answer the question, I connected because we were both active on here and I work with solo mostly. So that's the answer to why I connected. Seems like quite a good rhythm. So how often do you post? And so that's the assist question, right? So slowly is the second thing that I send, of course, but slowly I'm transitioning to a business oriented conversation. I'm going to make this a little bit darker as well. Should have been more mindful of my color selection. So yeah, that's great. What was your first impression when you visited my profile? Do I look like consultant, employee, or coach? Just curious if you can share your feedback. And then he also he answered the question. I plan to post 5 times a week, but it looks a stretch. How about you? So this first thing tells me that he's not 100% convinced on his positioning. He doesn't know if he comes across as a consultant, an employee, maybe a coach, maybe something else, right? So that is why that he asked that question. And then the second thing he said is that he basically has this goal of posting 5 times a week, but for some reason, I don't know at this moment, he's unable to do so. And also, it is unimportant for me to know why he is unable to post 5 times. If I were to offer content coaching, for example, or ghostwriting, now all of a sudden it would be really interesting to know what that problem is, right? So why aren't you posting 5 times a week? But I focus on lead gen and sales and clients, getting clients. So I don't need to ask about, hey, why aren't you posting 5 times a week? Like what's holding you back? I need to ask questions about lead gen and sales. Um, so I get into the answer. Look and feel is 100% consultant. So it seems to be in line with who you are and what you do. Even though he earlier mentioned he wants to focus on coaching, this wasn't the smartest answer. But the beauty of this conversation is that it's really far from perfect. Like looking back and reading over it again, I would have done things completely differently, but that's not how life works. And even though this is a really imperfect conversation, I still got a qualified call. And that is why I chose to use this conversation. So 5 times a week is a stretch for most people. I stopped posting to prove that you don't need to sign clients. And I underlined this on purpose. Onboarded one already, another in the coming 2 weeks. What's the main goal you're looking to achieve with your content? Podcast invites. So here I asked, how often do you post? Which makes it really natural to ask, what's the main goal of your content? I could have done it here as well. So I connected because we're both active in here, and I work with solo founders mostly. And then I would ask, what is the main goal you're looking to achieve with your content podcasting fights? But it would be the second message that I sent. In my opinion, it's a little bit too fast out of the barrel, right? So I like to take things a little bit slower, and that is why I created this concept of the assist. So what happened here with my message? Well, first of all, I am intentionally creating curiosity by saying I stopped posting to prove that you don't need content to sign clients. Because a lot of people on LinkedIn are still under the impression that you need to have really good content and consistent content to sign clients. There's no other way. I'm also establishing authority by letting him know that it is already working for me, right? So I challenge his beliefs, show kind of, I tell him that it works. There's no proof yet, of course. And then the last question is to draw out his intentions without making it sound too salesy. So I could have said, what is your main goal? What's the main goal you're looking to achieve with your content? Is it podcasting fights? Nowhere on his profile he says that he is a speaker or looking for podcasting fights or whatever. But I'm just elegantly, let me put it like that, elegantly drawing out his intention. I could have said, hey, what's the main goal you're looking to achieve with your content? Is it more leads? It would have probably worked as well. But because this is the third or the fourth message only that I'm sending to this guy, we've never talked before, we've never engaged with each other's content. I find it that because there is little trust, I should be a little bit more indirect in the beginning. So that is why I opted for an indirect question instead of asking more directly, like, hey, what are you looking to achieve? Is it more clients and leads? Hope that makes sense. There we go again with the green. There we go again with the green. So definitely not podcast, so that's good, right? I'm transitioning to coaching. So he has this split between coaching and consulting going on. Transitioning to coaching. So my goal would be mentoring and also giving the door, give the door open to consulting until I'm all set with coaching business. So he's still open for consulting clients. He just really ideally wants to do just coaching. So he wants to sign clients from LinkedIn. That's good, right? So was it a completely clear answer that he gave? No, but it's okay for now. I mean, it's early in the conversation. Then I send a voice note just to build a little bit more trust. It's more human, right? I'm humanizing myself. You can do that by voice notes, video notes, sending like a picture of your day when you're walking the dog or you're having a coffee in a coffee shop. Just send a picture like, hey, I'm just hanging out, right? You humanize yourself. So I send a voice note to build up a little bit more trust. You know, someone hears your voice for the first time. So sounds good. Do you have a coaching program, or do you look at what your clients need and work with that? So do you have a program, or is everything you do bespoke? Is what I'm asking here. The reason I do that is because usually coaches that are more mature, they have a program, right? They know exactly the steps they need to take their clients through to get a certain results. And so this question gauges the maturity of his business. I'm not even going to change the greens anymore. I messed up in this one. Currently, I'm doing a bespoke personalized program. I'm also testing and validating my offer. So he's relatively early stage, right? He doesn't really have an offer. He's still testing stuff out. Everything is bespoke for now. That's how we all start. Is your offer around project management? That is what I got from his profile. And then I commented on one of his posts. This was 5 hours apart, if I remember correctly. So this first question and then this message. It's not that I was impatient and I wanted a response from him, and I saw a post come up and it was like a comment. So I kind of forced him to respond to my message. Right? That is not it. It was a post that it honestly caught my attention, and we had a good laugh in the comment section. So I can only imagine you must have felt the moment you realized you were messing up your hair. So his barber was messing up his hair. That's what he posted about. So what I'm doing here with this first question is I'm just trying to get a sense of what his business is about. And also, as I said, this conversation is not perfect, right? Because this is an irrelevant question. Like, it doesn't really matter what his coaching program is about. Better question would have been who's your ideal client, for example, so I could gauge if they are on LinkedIn or not. Um, but it's okay, you know, I'm showing a little bit of interest, and then it comes on his post just because it really caught my eye. So he says, he goes into to this post comment, right? I can tell you how mad I was. And then regarding the previous question, my offer is around project management. I'm trying to analyze if career development or leadership development in project management is a better use of my time and my business. So he's really finding his way, right? He has a career in the space. He's doing consultancy already. He's adding coaching. Has a few clients. He will say that later in the conversation. He told me that on a call as well. But it's still pretty early stage. So everything happens for a reason. So this is how I'm ending the conversation on the hair fiasco, right? Because I don't need to continue to talk about that. This is a business oriented conversation. And so then I'm asking, how do you analyze the decision? And so at this stage, I'm just showing curiosity because I didn't ask the right question here. Right now, I'm basically in recovery mode. I need to get back on the qualification train. And so, how do you analyze the decision? And he's like, hey, from conversations with leads I get or chatting with people in the PM space. So I just say, okay, live data. Do you already get leads? There we are. We are back on track. You already get leads consistently, or is lead flow more like a trickle at the moment? Right. So I went off track a little bit. This was a little bit of recovery. I need to find my way back to figuring out things I talked about here in the beginning, get clear on the situation, define the goal. Where does he want to get to? Urgency, find the frustration, suggest the call. So we're back at qualifying. How are things going? Is lead flow consistent or is it like a trickle? I get 2 or 3 leads weekly, but the last week was slow. Some of these leads are not a great fit. So really valuable information here. He basically says that lead flow is inconsistent and that leads are low quality. Also, when he says that I get 2 or 3 leads a week, I don't really know what that means. Some people use leads as someone that responds positively to a message, other people as people that reach out to them, others as a qualified sales call. It's a really unambiguous term. And reading this, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't use the word leads anymore, but something more descriptive. So inbound and referrals are always sweet, but usually non-ideal. So, it's AVA. If you know, the acknowledgement part. And how many of these 3 leads a week are you converting to paying clients? So now I'm actively asking how many clients he's getting on a weekly or monthly basis. He has 2 paying clients and he wants 3 a month. And so he doesn't say anything about consistency here, right? He says I get 2 or 3 leads a week. He doesn't say I get 1, 2, or 3 clients a week. And so since he only has 2 paying clients, I read between the lines and understand that lead gen and client acquisition is a bit of a struggle. So we know what he wants. He wants to get 3 clients a month. And we know his current situation. He only has 2 clients. So the acknowledgement again, and then the question, what are you doing to make sure you hit your goal every month? It's a bit of the urgency, right? Optional, but in my opinion, it's really important. And he doesn't say a lot, as in a lot of meaningful. Nothing is really meaningful here, but I'm not being too aggressive with my approach. Can mean multiple things, right? It can mean that you don't really need the money because you have residual income, which is his case. It can also mean that you feel some sort of fear or discomfort or uncertainty around lead generation, and you're like, I don't want to be aggressive, but actually you really need clients, right? So that's the thing with that. I believe I need to also look at my content strategy, which is top of the funnel right now. What would your advice be? So when someone asks you advice, it's usually a really good sign, right? Because they see you as having more knowledge about a certain topic. So I give him the advice, but also pay attention that it's simple, it's high level, you can really implement it, right? And I end with a question to continue the qualification process. So when it comes to you definitely want to target all levels of the funnel, and DMing doesn't have to be aggressive. If you approach it the right way, it's the fastest channel to get clients short term. So it's an answer, but you can't really say, okay, let me implement it. And that's a mistake a lot of people make. They get into advisory mode, especially when someone asks them for advice. They give them everything they have and use this resource. And here's a few things, templates that you can use. And basically, the person, the prospect you're talking to, doesn't need you anymore because you already gave them everything. So cool. I end with, do you have a DM strategy to book consistent sales calls already? And he doesn't have it. I need to have a strategy. He even says, I need to have it, right? So that is for me a really good cue. It's actually a sign to propose a call already. Then I built more authority by saying, hey, I actually helped another coach build a DM lead gen engine recently, and she books up to 4 qualified sales calls per week. Would you be open to hopping on a 15-minute call to see how I might be able to help you do the same? We were having a good conversation going on. It had almost been 2 weeks. So I figured, it's okay. I don't need to overqualify. I can do that on the first call. I know where he is, where he wants to get to. It seems like a really nice guy to talk to. He doesn't use short answers, which is always a good sign. So I said, we have a good chat. Let's propose the call. Then he made a mistake by sending a GIF. He was like, oops, did it by mistake. We can meet next week. Happy Thanksgiving. I just go with the flow. Things like this happen. So I accept the hug. And then, I should have just left it at that. But I say you can delete GIFs anyway. Do you have a calendar link I can use? And then he's like, yeah, here's my email. Just book anything you want into my agenda. So that was the whole conversation. If you ask me, it wasn't pushy, it wasn't slimy, it wasn't sleazy, right? I was just asking a few questions to see if I would be able to help this person. And the answer was yes. And he was willing to hop on a call with me. So, as a quick summary, make chats feel like a conversation and not like an interview. And you do that by using AVA, right? Acknowledge, value, ask. Don't get into advisory mode, especially not when someone asks you for your opinion or for advice, because the whole goal is to uncover the goal, uncover where they are now, and uncover the frustration, pain point, or challenge. Always end with a question to lead the conversation. What's the most important thing is to identify the gap. Success in the DMs depends on your strategy. So don't go in intuitively. Understand the 3 C's framework. Understand the image that I just showed you with the 7 steps. If you want, conversations don't have to be perfect. This was far from perfect. Most people that are really good at DMing that read this conversation, they will be like, oh, you made a lot of mistakes. And I see the mistakes as well, right? I pointed them out. But it goes to show that okay is better than perfect. So don't wait until you are this perfect DM specialist, expert, whatever. Just start, have conversations, make mistakes. Sometimes you can recover, sometimes you lose the conversation. It is what it is. And then also really know your stages, but go